There's a version of your life that you have been meaning to get to. You know the one. The version where you finally slow down enough to actually feel what is happening around you, where you stop moving through your days like someone late for an appointment that never quite arrives, where the things that matter to you stop getting pushed to the end of a list that somehow never gets any shorter. You have been meaning to get to that version. You have been planning to get to it. You have told yourself it is coming, that it is just on the other side of this busy season, this difficult year, this one last thing that needs to be handled before real life can finally begin. And the question that nobody wants to sit with for very long is this: what if that version of your life is not waiting ahead of you? What if it was available all along? And what if the postponing itself was the problem rather than the circumstances you were postponing because of? Most people do not make a single dramatic decision to stop living fully. It does not happen that way. There is no morning where you wake up and consciously choose to put your real life on hold. It happens in the accumulation of small postponements, each one perfectly reasonable on its own, each one entirely justifiable in the moment, each one so minor that it barely registers as a choice at all. You postpone the trip because this is not quite the right time financially. You postpone the conversation because things are tense right now and it will go better when everyone is calmed down. You postpone the change because the timing is not ideal and you would rather wait until conditions are better. And conditions are never quite better. The timing is never quite ideal. The right moment has a remarkable talent for staying just far enough ahead of you that you never quite catch it, and you spend years in motion without ever arriving anywhere you actually meant to go. Henry David Thoreau wrote that most people live lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the songs still in them. He wrote that in 1854, and it has not stopped being true for a single day since. The desperation he was describing was not loud or dramatic. It was quiet precisely because it disguised itself as responsibility, as practicality, as wisdom. It looked like keeping your head down and doing what needed to be done. It looked like being sensible. It looked, from the outside, almost exactly like a good life, and that is what makes it so difficult to see clearly from the inside, until enough time has passed that the view becomes unavoidable. The thing about postponement is that it compounds the same way interest compounds, except instead of growing your savings, it grows your distance from yourself. Every year you spend not doing the thing you know you should be doing, not having the conversation you know needs to happen, not becoming the person you can feel yourself capable of being. Every one of those years does not simply pass neutrally. It adds weight. It adds a layer of quiet resignation that eventually starts to feel like personality, starts to feel like just who you are, starts to feel so normal that you forget it was ever a choice. People wake up at 50 and wonder how they got so far from what they wanted, and the honest answer is one reasonable postponement at a time, stretched across decades, each one so small it barely left a mark, and all of them together leaving nothing but marks. There is a particular kind of grief that has no name, but almost everyone who has lived long enough knows exactly what it feels like. It is the grief of the unlived life. Not the life that was taken from you by circumstance or tragedy or forces genuinely outside your control. The life that was technically available, that the door was open to, that you walked past repeatedly while telling yourself you would come back to it when the time was right. That grief is different from ordinary loss because it carries with it the additional weight of agency, the knowledge that on some level the choice was yours, that the postponing was something you participated in even when it felt like something happening to you. Mary Oliver asked in one of her poems, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" And the reason that question lands so hard for so many people is that most of us do not have a clean answer, and we know it, and we have known it for longer than we would like to admit. The hardest part of this is that the postponed life always feels temporary. That's the trick of it. It never feels like a permanent choice because you are always planning to get back to it. The temporary feeling is what makes it possible to sustain for years, for decades, for an entire lifetime in some cases. If it felt permanent, you would change it. If you woke up one morning and clearly understood that the waiting was the life itself and not the preparation for it, you would make different choices immediately. But it does not feel that way from the inside. From the inside, it feels like a brief delay in something that is definitely still coming, and that feeling is so persistent and so convincing that an entire lifetime can pass inside it without the illusion ever fully breaking. Marcus Aurelius, who had more reasons than most people to postpone his own peace and contentment, wrote in his private journals that he had the power to live only in this moment, only in what he called the present, which was the only place that life actually existed. Not in the plans, not in the intentions, in the when things settle down and I can finally. Only here, only now, only in what is actually happening, as opposed to what you were waiting for happening to happen. He wrote that to himself as a reminder, because even a Roman emperor with all the power in the world needed reminding that the present moment was not an obstacle to the life he wanted, but the only place the life he wanted could actually exist. What changes when you finally understand this is not dramatic. It is not a sudden revolution in your schedule or the demands being made of you. The life around you does not instantly rearrange itself to give you more room. What changes is something quieter and more fundamental than that. You stop treating the present as a waiting room. You stop moving through your ordinary days with the low-grade impatience of someone who would rather be somewhere else, in some future version of things that is always slightly better than what is currently available. You start finding that the ordinary Tuesday, with all its unremarkable demands and its complete absence of anything particularly significant, is actually quite a lot if you're paying attention to it instead of through it. The conversation over dinner becomes a conversation instead of an interval between more important things. The walk you take becomes a walk instead of a transition. The people in front of you become the people in front of you instead of background detail in a life you are still waiting to begin. Jim Rohn, who spent his life studying why some people fully inhabit their lives and others spend their whole lives meaning to do so, simply said that you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction. And direction is entirely a matter of what you do with today. Not the today you are planning for, not the more favorable today that is coming when conditions improve, this today, the one that is already half gone while you are thinking about what you are going to do with it. The life you keep postponing is made entirely of days like this one, and every day you spend waiting for better conditions is a day that belonged to the life you said you wanted and went somewhere else instead. There is nothing wrong with planning. There is nothing wrong with working towards something, with building, with delaying one thing in order to achieve another. That is not what this is about. This is about the deeper postponement, the one underneath the practical decisions, the one where you delay not a specific action, but a specific way of being present in your own life. That is the postponement that costs the most and asks for the least obvious price. It does not bill you immediately. It does not show up as a single loss you can point to and grieve. It shows up eventually as a vague but persistent sense that your life has been happening slightly to the side of where you were actually standing, that the real thing was always just about to start, that you were always just about to be ready, and then one day you look up and realize that all of that waiting was itself the life, every single day of it, and the only question that remains is what you are going to do with the days that are still yours to spend differently. The life you keep postponing is the only one you were given, not a rehearsal, not a rough draft, not a preparation for something more substantial that is on its way. This is it, the imperfect circumstances, the unresolved problems, the timing that is never quite right. This is the actual texture of a real life, and it is the only conditions under which a real life has ever been lived by anyone. The people who lived fully did not do it by finding better conditions. They did it by deciding that the conditions they had were sufficient to begin. And beginning, even imperfectly, even uncertainly, even with every reasonable excuse available for waiting a little longer, beginning is the only thing that has ever closed the distance between the life you have and the life you keep meaning to get to.